pants today.
3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of MTG Potpourri. Snake story, colonoscopy.
I didn't hear a single special.
We got there? Wait, were we actually recording? I don't even know if we're recording.
We've been recording for like 3 minutes.
All right, deal. We're into the show.
Pay it forward, man.
Thanks for that great intro, Adam. It's definitely not going to be a special show, except it kind of is a special show because we have a special guest this time. Tom, I'll give it to you. You can finish.
Oh, I think Adam's wearing the host.
No. We're finally giving it back to you. We're on track. Your Diet Pepsi's down. Please continue.
Yeah, Diet Pepsi's right here. But yes, we have a very special co-host with us today. So, Erin, Erin C. I'm not sure. People know my last name at this point, but I'm not sure how much to share on the internet. Nothing if you ask for what I'm telling my kids. Nothing.
My life is an open blouse. You can say my last name.
There we go. So Erin Campbell's joining us. Erin, where would people potentially recognize your voice or even kind of your video if they're one of the 6 people that watch this on the YouTube link for gatheringmagic.com? And all of them gave it a thumbs down.
My mom watched it. She hasn't had recent pictures of me, so she's like, I'm watching your podcast to see how you're doing. I'm like, okay.
She's like, button up your shirt and tuck in your shirt. I didn't even see it, but I know your shirt's not tucked in.
My mom's a cool mom. She's not telling me to button up my shirt. Chill out.
Well, she taught you how to dance.
All right, I apologize. Erin, continue.
No, my parents don't even know what podcasts are, so you're a step ahead of me in that department. So.
What? Well, Conley, you probably remember my mom used to listen. Just she had no idea what magic is or was, but she would listen to the podcast.
Yeah, so I did a show. I did a show for 2 years called the Tease, which was on Gathering Magic, and then I was invited to the Community Cup. So if you watch any of the 2014 Community Cup coverage, you can see me and the rest of the team win the trophy for last year, which was a lot of fun. And now I'm doing a show called the Girlfriend Bracket, which is also on GatheringMagic.com. And yeah, I'm kind of everywhere. I feel bad sometimes. Like I feel like I have to kind of stifle myself because people will ask me to be on other podcasts, and I'm like, I just did a show, and I don't want people to get sick of me. So I'm trying to cut back on all of that. I promise.
Well, it's just time too, because I mean, every podcast is like 1 to 3 hours.
Yeah, I just try to space them out a little bit, so people are like, "It's not her again," you know. Just.
And Erin, I know you're new here, but we try not to talk about the Community Cup here. We try to, yeah.
Oh, why is that?
I may have had a bad time.
No!
We might still be the only player team to have ever lost the Community Cup.
Oh, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I lost all of my events but one, and that one I won, I killed. So.
But I mean, the end, you walked away with the trophy at the end. We walked away with shame as I drove off at the fastest speed possible to the airport.
Yeah.
No, I had a lovely time. I actually cried the last day I was there. I didn't want to go home. It was very emotional for me.
I'm excited. I get to go to Seattle in June, so I actually get to see Gavin and I guess the home of magic. Yeah,
it's a really nice place.
Have you guys been there recently where apparently there's this new amazing magic store, the Moxatorium or...
I was there for Mox, the Cafe Mox, but I haven't seen the boarding house. I've seen pictures of the boarding house.
That's the one I'm thinking
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Gavin's going to give me the tour, so I'm going to go get to see the full show there.
Yeah, it's crazy when you go there, you know, to see like what their standards are for a game store, and then you see like what the average local game store looks like. It just blows out of the water. Yeah, it's like literally nirvana.
To be fair, that's not the standard for the game store there. That is a very exceptional experience, specifically catering to a very niche audience that happens to have enough people there. Like you take that model and you open it up in like another random city or location, and it probably just flops because they're just.
But it's sad though, because it makes you wish it could be. You know, you wish that they could all be like that. You know.
I think Dickinson, North Dakota, they need a magic store like that.
Did you say Diglett, like the Pokemon?
No, my family's from a town called Dickinson, North Dakota.
Oh, they said Diglett. I'm like, what?
No, there's some great names out there.
Whenever you say what the Dickens, you're talking about that.
Yeah. Erin has probably never heard about the Enchanted Highway. At some point, I'll get to share that on this podcast.
I think our definitions of enchanted highways are very different. But
this is one where a crazy farmer built like 40-foot tall metal sculptures to try to bring tourists to his town of like 50 people. They're impressive,
I can't say I've been there.
Yeah, no, most people haven't. Except I actually donated enough money to become a friend of the highway. There you go.
Do we have any topics about magic today?
No, but I was one of the producers for Thanksgiving 3. If you didn't know that. I also donated enough money to that.
Can we save that for our other podcast? Shit nobody cares about.
Why do you think we call this MTG Potpourri? For shit words people can't spell.
That's
I
not
didn't
even
know you could
potpourri,
swear on
Todd.
the show.
It's not magic potpourri. It's not even like a vase that you can put it in. It's more like it's possible for that
We do swear,
topic
yes.
to be in the same room that magic topics are in, but like across from it and out of view.
I like to look, yeah, like I said, I like to judge them, from afar. Like a true Minnesotan.
I'm just happy you can swear.
Yeah, we used to Monday Night Magic. We definitely try to. You used to go PG-13.
I learned that the hard way. I was on Monday Night Magic for the first time ever, and I swore. I'd never been on your show before. This is when Jack was still on, and I swore. And your listeners were ready to lynch me. They were like, "Who does she think she is swearing on this show?" And I was like, "You'd think I killed somebody." Like it was a big issue.
Because every once in a while one would slip out. And the worst, it wasn't the random grognard in a basement that was mad. It was I would literally get an email from like a 12-year-old kid saying, "I love your podcast." And you swore, and I know swearing's bad. Just like, oh.
Yeah, I had no. I mean, I didn't get that, but I had no idea that it would be such a hot topic. Of all the things I could have done.
To be fair, if that same 12-year-old kid is listening to this podcast, the swearing is the least bad thing.
Yeah, you gotta keep snakes out of his hands now. You got no snakes in the house.
He has plenty of stuff. He needs counseling after every single episode, and it has nothing to do with swearing.
Some new ideas. Start grinding up morning glory seeds, snorting them into his eyeball.
All right, what are our topics, Adam?
Well, our first one is probably the most relevant for the fewest Magic players out there right now. Oddly enough, it's the Regional Pro Tour qualifiers. The first weekend of Regional Pro Tour qualifiers just happened. All the preliminary Pro Tour qualifiers have been feeding up to this. This is the new system where before a store would host a Pro Tour qualifier, and if you won that event, you got your invitation and airfare to the Pro Tour that it fed. Now, the new process, if you've been living under a competitive Magic rock, is you play in a preliminary Pro Tour qualifier, of which there are many, many more. Most local stores have one per qualification season. If you win that one, that's your invitation to the regional Pro Tour qualifier, and from there, typically the top 4 earn an invitation to the Pro Tour. Conley's got some prize or deck or something.
So I went to a regional PTQ this weekend, and I walked away with a box, and I opened it. I got 4 mythics. Look at these mythics. These are my 4 mythics.
Well done.
That's like
I know I'm totally skilled opening those packs, so good job.
Well, no, I need cards. I have no standard cards. I haven't played very recently, so I actually just needed the uncommons and stuff like.
I've noticed we haven't seen you around.
Yeah,
he's getting back. He's kind of found his mojo again.
I'm cutting to the first topic already. I should let Adam finish, and then we'll go to the first topic.
No, but I mean, that's just, this was just the past weekend was the first one. So events ranged in size from around 32, 33, 34. That was kind of the lowest number in the United States up to, I've seen, like 130.
Two over 128 in the world. One of those was in Asia, I think Tokyo.
Yeah, Tokyo was 133, and then Italy was
New York. Yeah, the other one was New York area. It's some city that isn't New York, but it's in that area, northeast, and it got 130 something. It wasn't very many, more than 128. But yeah, every other one was pretty small. The one I was at in Albuquerque was 39 or 38 players. The other one that I could have reasonably attended, Albuquerque is about a 6-hour drive for me. The other one would be Salt Lake City, which is about a 7.5-hour drive, so a little bit further. That got 39 players, so they were both remarkably close in size. Yeah.
So you're saying that you could choose to go to any regional qualifier. You weren't assigned one based on your location.
You could go to literally anyone, as far as I know, in the world. Maybe just your country, but I'm pretty sure in the world. So if you want to fly to Alaska to play in a 20-person one, that's fine. You can do that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, how much EV are you getting though? Because the ones in the United States, the majority, the ones in Iowa and stuff, are 35 to 50 people. They're not much different in size. It's not like you're talking about the typical 300-person PTQ versus a 32-person PTQ. You're talking about 30 to 50 people in fluctuation.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, you can go to anyone. So there was a couple people from Vegas at R1 in Albuquerque, even though it's also a further drive. It's a further drive for them than Salt Lake. They just expected it to be smaller, so they came here. Tan and Grace was there, for example. But yeah, me and Michael Jacob headed down to Albuquerque. We worked together, so we kind of went to the PTQ. We ended up playing Esper Dragons, which we determined was just by far the best deck against an open field. Basically, the deck has extremely powerful. You get Counterspell. I mean, Counterspell has not been legal in Standard for a very long time, and you get Counterspell in this deck. Yes, there are a couple quirks to it, but generally it's Counterspell. And then in addition to that, you get some insanely powerful cards. People might not realize how powerful some of these cards are. Foul Tongue Invocation with the kicker, when you gain 4 life, is absurd. Like, if you remember Face Fetters is one of my favorite removal spells of all time because of how versatile and awesome it was. Foul Tongue Invocation is not that far off, especially when people are running hexproof cards and things that you need to actually have edicts for.
And the Thunderbreak Regent.
Yeah, Thunderbreak Regent.
You can't target it.
Also, it's like an edict that you're happy against the token decks and the red decks because the 4 life matters. It's just excellent card. And in addition to all that stuff, you have access to sweepers if you want it, a million good spot removal spells, including like Hero's Downfall, which is versatile, Bile Blight, which is catches you up when you're behind, even Perilous Vault if you want to use that as like a generic catch everything. You have a bunch of good counter magic, insane card draw with Dig Through Time, Treasure Cruise if you want it, Dragon Lord's Prerogative, and Anticipate now as a cheap thing if you want. And then you have some of the best win condition packages of all. Like, you have multiple game-winning flyers that have hexproof. Like, that is absurd. Like, we were dying for Sphinx of Jour Isle back in the day. You remember? We played that 6-mana 5/5 Shroud. That was the card. We played that card, and now we have 5-mana 5/4 hexproof. When it hits, I get to draw a card for 5 mana. It's absurd. And that turns on all my counter spells and stuff. Like, the win conditions are some of the best of all time. So we just thought Dragons was going to be the best. We sculpted our main deck to kind of be able to beat the field. We had an Ugin main. I really think you won an Ugin main last weekend because it just, against especially a PTQ field, having a catch-all card like that just takes over a game was insane. And basically the only matchup that I would not want to play against was the 5-color blue dragons that Flores won with. If you have not read his article, it's on TCG Player. Go check it out. He and Patrick Chapin talked about it. Yeah.
I was just going to say, were you concerned at all with the fact that it felt like everybody was gunning for it? Like, if you look at like Star City and TCG and Channel Fireball, people were either writing about it and people were commenting on how many articles there were about it, or they were writing about how to beat it. Like, were you worried that you had a target on your head?
There's a couple things here. One, the deck is not very easy to quote-unquote hate out. It's not a combo deck that has an obvious weakness. Clearly, it's a control deck, so you have 2 options, which are to go bigger than it, which is what 5-color blue dragons did, but was not a deck that anybody was going to play because it was so well-kept secret and basically talked about in very small circles. Or you could try to outrace it in some manner. And the decks that outrace it, being red, while they could theoretically do that, they don't really get better post-board. And so if you can actually, I mean, they can get a couple cards, but nothing that you're not getting. So if you can come up with a reasonable game 1 plan against it that uses Foul Tongue Invocation, Bile Blights, whatever, and just survive, the matchup actually just gets better for you going forward. So there's really no weakness that, assuming you knew the matchups, there's no weakness going in where, you know, somebody could just have this card that beats you. I played Risen Executioner as like my trump in the mirror to be able to beat Esper, and I didn't even find it very good. Like, I would not play that card in the sideboard again. Some people found some success with it, but it was heralded going in. Like, if you read the articles, everybody was talking about how it was the way to win the mirror. I don't even think it's that impressive. I think the mirror's still just fine if you're just casting with Jutai and backing up with counter spells and thought seizes and whatnot.
It's funny that you mentioned Esper Dragons because I just recorded my show earlier, and one of the girls on my show went to just a normal PPTQ, and she found that Esper Dragons did not do well at the PPTQ. Like, so Esper Dragons was at the bottom tables, and like like if you were to split it in half, the upper half, it wasn't even a thing.
So that actually leads into my other point, which is that Esper Dragons is an extremely skill rewarding deck. A pro player, let's say that an average FNMer plays it at the 100% level. At a PTQ level, I would say that the players there are a little bit stronger, so they're probably going to play at like 120% level. I think a pro has the capability of playing that deck at a 350 to 400% level. Like, you can play the deck in such a way that you cannot lose the mirror. Like, I molded again to 5 and made a mistake to lose my winning in for my invite because I basically held a land I drew to bait a Thoughtseize out of my opponent. I was trying to make a kind of advanced play and keep an extra card in my hand so he would think that he needed to Thoughtseize me, and I knew he had the Thoughtseize. So I kept the land in my hand and then proceeded to draw 3 straight comes into play tap lands, and on the final turn he had made a line where his Ugin was sitting there with like 10 counters on it, and on the final turn I needed to have exactly 1 more mana to return my Dragon Lord Silumgar, cast it, steal his Ugin, ultimate it, and win the game. And literally this Haven of the Crucible or whatever in my hand of the dragon just sitting there, and it's just like 4 turns ago, if I just played this land, I win the game on a mold of 5. But I think that like the deck just rewards skill so much. You see so many cards. Dig Through Time is an extremely difficult card to resolve, despite it, being rather straightforward. 7 cards is a lot of cards to see, and picking 2 of them means you have to have a game plan in mind. You can't just be like, I'm just taking the 2 best cards, because that does not work all the time.
Yep.
So, like, I had Dig Through Times where I took, like, Scryland Thoughtseize, even though I'm staring at some of the best cards ever printed. And it's just like, this is what I need right now. I need to make sure I hit 2 land drops in a row, and I need to make sure he doesn't have a counter spell. But a lot of players would not necessarily see that. Anticipate is another card that was really skill rewarding. All the Scrylands are really skill rewarding. So when you just start adding this up, if you're making these decisions correctly, if you're, for example, let's say I scribe 3 cards at the bottom and then dug through time. If I'm a normal player, on my next turn, maybe I break a fetch land and don't even think about it. But if I'm a good player, I'm leaving that fetch land in play as long as possible, because there are 10 known cards on the bottom of my deck that as soon as I shuffle those in, my draw steps get significantly worse. Unless I knew I put something down there that I needed to get shuffled in, then I'm breaking my fetch land right away. There's like little things like that just give you such an advantage over time. You see so many cards with the deck, and the deck just has so many generic answers to everything that playing every single turn specifically correct just nets you such a huge advantage. So like the general field playing Esper Dragons was probably incorrect, but at the same time, because Esper Dragons was heralded as this insane deck, everybody wanted to play the insane deck, so you knew the field was going to be saturated with Esper Dragons regardless of how good the players were. So playing an Esper Dragons, just playing it better than opponents, was what I was looking to do. The 5-color blue deck that Flores played just goes over the top. It casts dragons using a single mana because it's got the storage land, which is insane. It's got way more counter magic. It doesn't have dead cards like Bile-Blight. It's a really insane deck against Esper Dragons. It has a few more weaknesses, like its mono red matchup is significantly worse. It doesn't have Drown in Sorrow or Virulent Plague. It's like relying on sideboarded Omen Speakers as its mono red defender, which is not. Yeah. But it didn't matter because Flores knew everybody was going to play Esper Dragons. So let me just show up and crush Esper Dragons, and that's exactly what he did. This week going forward, I expect the metagame to actually be really, really open because of the Blue Dragons deck existing. Like, the Blue Dragons deck does not make Esper obsolete. What it does is it makes Esper the safe control deck, and it makes Blue Dragons the, like, slowest over-the-top control deck. But that doesn't necessarily make it the best. It makes that matchup good, but again, against the mono red deck or against an Abzan aggro deck or mono black aggro is a deck I've been testing a lot and liking a ton. Those decks can all beat the Blue Dragons deck pretty well with Thoughtseize as with Burn Spell.
Did you say mono black aggro?
Yeah.
You mean like Angry Black Men, like the soldiers?
No, like mono black aggro with Mogi's Marauder.
Right, I saw a list like that had a Bludgeon Rager.
Yeah, I don't like that. I mean, he's okay, but I think going all in on the Warriors theme is a little too strong. Like, I think Silumgar Assassin is an essential card. It's very, very strong. Not a warrior. Blind Seer or Pain Seer, very essential card to get your card advantage back. Not a warrior. And then a couple of your 1-drops aren't warriors. I think Bludgeon Rager decks are like okay, but I think you basically just want Thoughtseizes, Mogi's Marauder, a couple Bile-Blights, and then like a super aggressive curve. Like, I think I'm playing 13 1-drop creatures, a bunch of 2-drops, and then Mogi's Marauder is my only 3-drop. You just get in there, you Thoughtseize away their sweeper, whatever it is. And then post-board, you have cards like Fester Gloom, which people don't even realize is a card, which like is an aggro mirror breaker, where like you're killing their board, and you get to kill their board and keep all your stuff alive. But yeah, I think that deck's very, very good. I would actually, if I was going to Toronto, which I'm not, I would actually be playing mono black aggro. I've been testing it a bunch online. I am like 20-3 total. And 2 of those losses were against random decks that basically don't even exist. But the deck's just been performing outstanding for me right now.
Cool.
That's your tip. There's your standard tip.
Yeah.
I've been so focused on Modern lately. I think the last time I played Standard was at States, SCG States. And I was playing Sultai Reanimator, had a lot of fun with it. And I know it's a bad time for Reanimator, so I probably won't play it. But I've been so focused on Modern, I really haven't paid much attention. It's kind of where my wheelhouse is lately.
And just for the more casual player, when you were kind of mentioning the playing a deck to a certain percentage, you mentioned like 100%, 300%. Is that like a known way to refer to skill of playing a deck?
No, I was just saying
okay.
That. I mean, like, it's known that some people play decks better than other people. Like, if you put an Affinity deck in Alex Mazzeltown's hands and you put it in basically any other player's hands, he's going to get more wins in a 100-game set or whatever because he just knows a couple more things about the deck. He's run into a couple more scenarios than you. He has a couple things memorized better than you. He knows the rules interaction you don't, whatever. He just has played the deck so much. He's so familiar with it that he's good with it. That same type of effect kind of happens when a pro picks up a deck versus like random player. Like if the deck is really leveraging skills that player, the lower player, does not have, then he is not gaining all the value of the deck. So the deck does not appear to be good to him, or in the field he's playing, because he's not actually taking advantage of the things. Like if you're just casting your draw spells and removal spells in random orders, then the deck's just like a deck. But if you're actually getting value out of all your plays, using your mana correctly, knowing what to counterspell, knowing what cards to take off your draw spells, then all of a sudden all these pieces start falling into place where you just have this like Voltron of a deck that basically can't lose. And it has a very good matchup against most of the field. But if you're playing the deck badly, then it's just, it's like playing a limited deck or whatever. It's like, sure, you got removal spells and you got some stuff, but I attacked my Ajuke at the wrong time and lost it to a removal spell, and then my next two got edicted, and then I didn't have a win condition. Like,
it's funny because I've classified you as that type of player, Conley. Like, I'll never forget this. I think I might have told you about this. So you were a Pro Tour Gate Crash. I will never forget this. I was sick in bed that weekend, and I was watching the coverage, and you played this Rakdos control list with Cryptghast and Grizzlebrand.
Yeah.
And some other stuff, and I was in love, and I was like, I have to own this deck. So I immediately ran to TCG Player, spent $150 on the pieces I was missing, and I just didn't do well with it. And that was the first time I really had a taste of, the fact that a pro player can play a deck so much differently than I can. And I've actually experienced this with other deck builders as well. Adrian Sullivan's another one where he just has those lists where they are fantastic in his hands, but when we, the average player, tries to play them, it just does not go off as well. Gerard Fabiano's another one. Ali Antrazi's another one. Great guys. It's not personal. It's not shady, but there are just certain players where when I see a list, I have to say to myself that's them. Like, I am not going to get the same results out of it, and God bless them. But there are just some people that it just falls out of their hands differently than it does the rest of us.
Yeah, there's a couple different reasons for that. I'm fairly notorious for it. My lists generally are not good the week after. There's a couple of exceptions, like I won GP Orlando with that black-green deck. It basically disappeared for a month. Nobody really played it, and then it top-aided the very next Pro Tour.
I was on that too.
And it was like 3 cards different than my list from the GP. I was like, I was actually surprised with it. I'm like, wow, somebody's still playing my list from there and doing well with it. But I'm actually fairly notorious for people not having success with my decks afterwards, which is almost intentional because I designed my deck specifically for a Pro Tour. I'm trying to guess a field. When I don't do well with the deck, that means that the field I expected was not there, and therefore the next week perhaps my deck is the proper deck. Like perhaps the metagame shifts into a point where now my deck was correct. So in those cases when I don't do well, there's actually a higher chance that people, like, I write an article about it and then people play the deck the next week and have some success because all of a sudden everything shifted correctly. But when I do have success with the deck, that means I picked it correctly and the metagame is still moving on, and there's a good chance that I picked such a specific point in time to try to make this thing work that my deck is just basically no longer good. It doesn't work against the new metagame. It doesn't beat the decks that beat what worked last week. And so it's just no longer a good list. Maybe it has a couple, maybe you can still play it. Maybe it has, some type of like proactive thing that's fun to do, but it's not necessarily correctly positioned to succeed, which happens all the time. I rarely, when I test for a tournament, I'll do a bunch of games with a deck. I'll play the tournament, and then I almost never play that deck again after that tournament. I mean, the deck has to be like assuming I did well. Sorry, if I did poorly, maybe I'll continue to work on the deck and try to improve it. But assuming I did well, I generally just drop the deck and move on to something else. I don't really hold pet decks and continue to work on them because I don't build for that type of thing. I don't build for PTQ seasons. I literally just build for specific tournaments. It's just the way I like to build. And so my decks just generally just don't work afterwards. Also, there is the play skill. I see the game very, very uniquely. People that watch my videos tend to complain or say I'm stupid and did whatever, just because the way I value cards, both in limited and constructed, is so differently than other people. And I can't really convey that the way I see things to other people. So it's not like something other people I expect them to grasp, but I would generally work some things into my deck that kind of capture that side of me, and other people can't. They just don't put the pieces together as well. Maybe I could write about it and they just do that play over and over again, but they don't understand why they're doing the play, or when a unique situation comes up in the future that needs a slight alteration of the play, they don't know how to alter it, or, whatever. Like, for example, when I sideboard, I very rarely do I have a guide that I follow. I will, because very rarely are you playing against a deck that you know the 75 cards ahead of time. Like, sure, they're a Bant deck, but they also had 2 negates in their main deck that I was not expecting, and now maybe my Thought Teasers are significantly more valuable, even though I didn't have them originally coming in. Like, I don't like to follow a guide because the matchups you tested are not the deck you're playing against. They give you some rules, but they should not be your like, do this, because you have no idea. So you need to use all the information you're gaining, including in that game one, including your player's play style, maybe some deck you heard about right before the tournament started, whatever, and you need to make some decisions on the fly. And so I actually just like to like think about the matchup when I sideboard and kind of take things. I might play against the exact same 75 two matches in a row and board differently just because of how I felt the things happened, or a new card I learned about or whatever. And with like that type of thinking is not something that a lot of players are comfortable with. They have other skill sets that they're better at. So, they would rather not focus their brain power on that sort of thing, and they'd rather just look at a list and sideboard. And that's fine, but it's not necessarily something that I build towards. So it doesn't really, their skills are not being leveraged in the same way because I don't build the deck for them. I build decks to like leverage my skills. That's all I got to say about that.
Ooh, take a breath, Conley. Take a breath. You might need to drink something there. Throat's getting a little sore, a little parched.
Hey, I was being questioned. I was being interviewed on my own podcast.
That's good. I get to.
I have a really bad habit of like taking over shows. I'm sorry. I'll work on it.
I was reading some 2-minute mysteries. Saw them in 2 minutes.
I remember those.
Yeah, I was going to read one. If we have 2 extra minutes, we're going to read. This is by the guy that used to write Encyclopedia Brown, but it's like the adult version, so there's lots of murders. So, 2-minute mysteries. Kind of fun stuff you find at garage sales. For like 5 cents. Well, Adam, pseudo-host of this show, what's our next topic?
So, Erin.
Oh, can I say one thing about the RPTQs real quick?
Hey, Erin's got it. You just tromp right over Adam every time. That's what you do. She's on it. No, that's the heart of the podcast.
I would like to say this, a 30-second synopsis. It was the best PTQ experience of my life, by far. I had a great time. Lot of room. Is significantly stress. There was some stress because it was, you're playing in a competitive event, but way less than a normal PTQ. Plenty of room to play. Everyone was really chill and nice. The players were some of the most friendly I've ever seen. The top 8 went really flawless. Granted, this is my location. I can only speak to my own location, but it was I am excited to play in the next RPTQ, and I did not know if I would be or not, but it was one of the best PTQs I've ever played in.
Yeah, I heard nothing bad about it. I was keeping an eye on it on Twitter, on Facebook, and I heard I don't even think I saw any negative feedback about it. Like, everybody I saw was pretty stoked about it. They said the same thing Conley did. I was really impressed with and maybe this is just a side effect of the current standard format, but I was really pleasantly surprised with the variety of decks that I saw, from country to country and city to city. It wasn't just Esper Dragons. People might have gone into it thinking it was the best deck, and it might be the best deck, but I was really happy to see some Mono Red and to see some Black Red Dragons and to see the 5-color Dragon deck and to see things like that. I was really expecting it to be more extreme, and it was nice to see. I even saw some Reanimator, and it was nice to see everybody have a shot and do well. That was really cool.
Top 4 of my PTQ were all Esper Dragons. Michael Jacob got an invite, so my cardmate got it. I was one match out, but yeah, top 4 was all Esper Dragons.
So I have to say this, and this isn't meant to be shady or anything, but I have to get this off my chest. Is it me, or has Michael gotten nicer?
He's definitely gotten nicer. I think a lot of that comes with age.
I watched one of his streams the other day, a few weeks ago. He was on, this was back when Delver was still big in Modern, so think January or so. And he was putzing around with some Modern lists, and I had stumbled on his stream, and I was blown away. It was like a whole other guy. I really enjoyed myself. I was like, what happened to him?
He works at Dire with Digital with me, so now he gets to be around me all day, and I naturally just brighten people's days.
Don't ask what Conley does. Because apparently it's like rocket science sunshine work.
No, but I'm sure it actually does have, we have a pretty large Magic, Patrick Chapin, myself, Luis Scott Vargas, Michael Jacob, Brandon Nelson. We all work together, along with some other Magic players from days past you guys might not know about, but we're a pretty close group of guys. So for him to come into that, I'm sure has helped him out. He's got a stable job, and also he's just getting older. I am a significantly nicer person than I was 3 years ago. I was significantly more cynical and whatever back then. But I don't know. I think that you just learn to appreciate things a little bit more. What? Why are you scratching?
I'm cynical about your less cynicalness.
I am well. I mean, I put on a bit of an act because it's funny, but when it comes to like actually like getting upset about things and like things,
you seem to have less life tilt than I used to hear about before.
Yes, I was.
We won't go near tilt.
Yeah, because I mean, horrible stuff still happens to you every time you think about traveling somewhere, but it seems like you were less affected by it now.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. Like depression's a real thing. MJ, I don't know if MJ went through any depression or not. Maybe he did.
I'm currently in therapy for it, but
there you go.
Keeping it real. That's what I do.
But no, I agree. No, Conley, you are a nice guy.
Yeah. F you, Tom. All right.
And just right down the toilet. There we go. We just got on the time machine.
Adam, next topic. Next topic. Spin the wheel topic.
Wheel of topics. So the next topic is so we're in the future, and by we're in the future I mean we're recording in the past, but this is actually going live in the future. My room looks the same though. So so everyone who's watching already knows this card. Already knows that it's in Modern Masters 2015 edition. I just want to talk about it a little bit here, especially with you, Erin, since this card's probably up your alley and something you've
deep
been
spawn,
looking forward
right?
to.
Deep
it's not the card you've been like insisting it must be.
So I'm
just like,
alley.
Bring it down.
So it's not Damnation?
No, it is not Damnation. I don't know if Damnation's in the set or not, but the card that I have to share and talk a little bit about today, and we don't need to spend too much time on it. It's a rare in Modern Masters 2015 edition. It's a black-red hybrid card, Fulminator Mage.
Ooh.
I do it!
You know why I'm upset? You know why I'm upset? Because the card is Fulminator Mage, and you didn't mention me once in who would care about the card. Aaron's gonna love the card.
You were all over Fulminator Mage.
It's a card that blows up a land, and you didn't mention me once.
Why do you think I brought it on the cast, Conley? Jeez.
I first discovered my first encounter with Fulminator Mage. My first deck when I got into Modern was Living End, and Fulminator Mage is a 4 in that deck, in the main deck, and that was the first time I ever ran into that card. That was the first time I really... It's funny, because I first started playing Living End as a budget brew, because I didn't know if I'd like Modern, so I was using Avalanche Riders instead of Fulminator Mage, and I was one of those people who mistakenly thought, it's no big deal, what's the difference? It's just 1 mana, what's the big deal? And then once I used Fulminator Mage, I was like, I get it. It is different. They're not the same. And now I use them in my Jund sideboard, and I have them signed by RK Post, and it's like a hug from Jesus. Just
so my favorite Fulminator Mage event was Worlds 2010 in Japan. Ifro needed to go, I think 3-2 or better, 3-2-1 or better, to top 8 Worlds that year. And I somehow convinced him to play what I believe was called Ooze and Oz by BDO. And it was a Necrotic Ooze combo deck that you would Fauna Shaman out your combo pieces, and it was pretty cool. You would use Devoted Druid, Grim Poppet, and Necrotic Ooze in play, and you would basically make infinite mana and kill all your opponent's stuff, and then you would turn the infinite mana into it. It was actually really cool. But the part that didn't necessarily feel like it would be extended viable was that I happen to have 4 Acidic Slimes in this deck, and 2 Primal Commands, and 4 Fulminator Mage. And Fulminator Mage did the so you kept your opponent's mana in check while you did all your stuff, and Fulminator Mage had the added benefit of giving its ability to Necrotic Ooze. So you would Fulminator Mage, sacrifice it, next turn Necrotic Ooze, sacrifice it, next turn Acidic Slime, and sometimes you would just win by killing all your opponent's mana.
Yeah, I've done that with Living End before, where you sacrifice your Fulminators and then you bring them back again and just leave them. You have like 20 power on the board, but they have no lands. It's a beautiful feeling.
And in the end, Ifro top-8'd with that list that year. I went 5-1. It was super fun. Dave Williams, as he often was the recipient of bad beats playing my decks. He's had some. he's gone O&X many times. This particular event, he went 1-5 with the deck. But I was happy. So whatever. Ifro made it in top 8. And then Ifro wore my sport coat in the top 8 because he didn't bring any suits, so he literally wore mine in the top 8.
Aww. I'm happy about this, though. I think that's definitely one of those cards that needs to be maybe knocked down in price a little bit, or maybe more available to people. So I'm all for it.
I don't know how much it is.
Yeah.
What?
What's the price at?
Last time I checked, it was 30 to 40 a piece.
Jeez.
Yeah, I purchased I purchased Living End in November of 2013. I started playing Living End, and they were 38 a piece when I bought them, and I believe they're still in that ballpark.
Yeah, average about $39.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm all for it. I'm happy.
So I like Fulminator Mage too, even though I don't really play Constructed or Modern or anything that you might think
Commander.
Fulminator Mage. Play Commander. So I like Fulminator Mage because obviously, like Wasteland is I think a great generic utility card in Commander. Right? There are a bunch of really obnoxious lands and combo lands and things that can do really stupid stuff. Especially when somebody has like Cabal Coffers out and Urborgs and just starts doing all sorts of silly things. So having a way to just deal with like a random land that wrecks the game if it's there, otherwise the game is fine without it. Fulminator Mage is just one of those great cards where, because it's a creature, you can just always just cast it and beat down. So like you equip it with swords, you equip it with something else, like it just does its thing. It can block. It doesn't have persist. I was about to say it can block twice, but it can't. That would be really sick if you sacked it and got to kill 2 lands with it.
Right.
Yeah, but it's just one of those generic cards where people kind of relegate it to just specifically competitive Modern, and I think that's kind of like the wrong place for it. I really love those generic utility creatures, like Acidic Slime is another great one that I just love in Commander because it just blows up.
Acidic Slime.
Hey, it's an uncommon. I'm not taking it anywhere. It's not going. And we're looking at Tom's
baby monitor.
Baby. Yeah,
is there Acidic Slime in their crib?
If it is, Tom should be running. Or
crib swap.
Acidic
There
Slime
would be a creepy
is
thing to get in the morning.
baby. That would also not surprise me. Mr. Ooze here. But those generic effects are actually really nice. So if you have a black-red deck and you have an extra Fulminator Mage, or you crack one, and you're like, well, I'm never playing Jund or Living End because those are bad decks, and who plays those, as some Modern players might say, you can stick into Commander deck. That's what I did. So
now, with the Commander deck's consent, of course. You can't just go sticking it into any Commander deck. You need to make sure you get a verbal yes from your Commander deck. Come on, Adam!
Just basic courtesy.
Yeah, don't stick it into someone else's deck. Actually, that's just a general rule for any card you have. Do not forcibly put it into anyone else's deck.
All right, thank you.
It is something that you can do in the privacy of your own home with your decks.
I'm not touching the...
Yeah.
We have to be the responsible ones in our community. Yeah.
Privacy of your own home. Geez, that's boring.
Okay,
you can't do it from like a bay window.
It's still your decks.
I mean, you could do that in a Greyhound or in a stairwell or in a...
Wait, in a Greyhound?
Do Greyhounds have little bathrooms?
Who travels like Greyhounds anymore?
Bam.
What the hell
I've taken a Greyhound many times.
I took a Greyhound to Minneapolis for the SCG and for the GP.
Oh, apparently Minneapolis is the only place where Greyhounds go.
Yeah, I took a Greyhound from here to Fargo, North Dakota, and you can bring it back. Then you get to watch interesting things like because it stops like every 36 seconds if you've ever been in a Greyhound bus, because that's up in every single town.
Or you get to meet interesting people at 2 a.m. when everybody in the bus is asleep.
Yeah, you can watch all the people go to the liquor store, and then you watch the bus driver also go to the liquor store.
Some people sometimes you call those people interesting, other times you call them criminal.
Or my Greyhound experience, I took a Greyhound once. I was just graduated high school.
Oh,
and, high school. It was high school. I was still a large man, but not as large.
Were there no dinosaurs around for you to ride to your destination?
No dinosaurs for me to ride.
He did have to pedal with his feet, though.
No, but I thought I was smart, because this is like the advent of, this is when like internet searching and like internet information was like a thing. So like I looked up information and I was like, this is great, Conley. This is great. I was like, oh, there's only one stop. I'm so smart. I'm going to take the bus that has one stop. So I get on the bus. The bus makes one stop at the state penitentiary. It's actually picking up all the people that were being paroled from prison going back to Pittsburgh. So I'm literally on a bus with like 30 parolees, which is fine. Like it was actually like a totally fine trip.
I saw that on She Wrote once.
Right, yeah. The trip back was actually the worst because it was like a tour group from a retirement community, so they all sang songs and like did like things that like when your grandmother does it by herself, it's cute. when like 30 of them do it in unison with like somebody leading them, it gets old real quick. And I did not have enough AA batteries, so that dates me a little bit. So that got old. But the ride out was great. I talked to a guy.
What were you doing on a bus where you needed AA batteries?
Well, you had the CD player at the time. The portable CD players. Discman.
CD player.
All right, am I standard legal?
No. You are not legal to play in standard.
We wish you weren't.
God.
Do I lose you the game if you don't cast me from your hand? That's my second question. I go. That's how I pull. Oh wait, I'm an island. Oh yes. So good.
Oh man.
Is that how you reveal your cards whenever you do some sort of reveal the card effect from your deck?
I mean, sometimes. Only if I'm playing vintage.
Why don't you have to reveal like 7 cards?
Well, then
Forehead's not that big.
Never mind.
So that's Modern Masters 2015. Fulminator Mage is back. It's a rare. It's awesome. If you open one, do your little dance thing and be like, woo, I get value for my pack. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
I might actually buy a pack of Modern Masters this time. Because I refuse to buy them for more than MSRP. So I never bought a pack of the last one.
Vegas should be registered as the largest tournament ever.
I'm going.
I'll be there.
You there?
Meet greets, bound, and both bound events.
When is it actually? What's the actual date?
It's the
Last weekend in May.
Last week in May? I'm actually... That's around the time I'm going to Seattle.
Well, instead, you can go to Vegas, spend a bunch of money, make a bunch of money, and play in the largest tournament ever and be miserable.
Yep, the Sleep Medicine Conference, they've picked their dates a long time ago. They may not change it for
Sleep
Grand
Medicine Conference?
Yeah, there's a big one every year. It's called...
Tom leads a really exciting life.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, the thing is the way modern veterinary medicine has advanced so quickly, it really requires a lot of training to keep up with because so many people have like
cat
think about
disorder.
so when you're talking about people, like there's actually a fairly narrow range that like people fall in. Think about like a dog. Like you've got everything from like a 4-pound Chihuahua up to like a 100-pound Saint Bernard. So like understanding anesthesia for just dogs alone is just insane. So Tom is doing his part to stay on top of veterinary medicine on behalf of pet owners everywhere.
And they've got a cat like Smush who has no nose. Like, where do you put the mask? Because it just kind of ends up with an eyeball.
This is the thing.
I believe this specific sleep conference is whether or not we should be advocating for anesthesiology to give dogs baths.
Yeah, it terrifies me that you think sleep medicine and anesthesiology are the same thing. I don't want you near me or my family. You want to go to sleep, huh? Forever?
It's a type of sleep medicine.
Just absolutely not. Shockingly far away, actually.
That's how Tom starts trips. Hey kids, let's have a gas.
Who wants to huff ether today? God, what was the show where Michael Caine dies from huffing ether?
I used to think, kids, the rite of passage for being a teenager used to be that you would go in your parents' liquor cabinet. For you, it's like going in your gas canisters? Like,
it rope out. You go hit the Robitussin and supposedly hallucinate. You were not familiar with roping out? Is this a Midwest thing?
Robo-tripping.
Robo-tripping, robing out, whatever it is.
Robing out is like when I open my robe and flash myself.
Yeah.
I've also heard it called night chill because like you have like a party and everybody just like brings their own NyQuil.
I've never heard of that. Wow.
Oh,
they didn't cover that on Intervention.
I've never Tom, you've robo-tripped?
No, I had to be around people that did.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't seem to work very well. I just got really sick because you're
you're just drinking gross alcohol, really.
Ew.
At this point, if there were like a running chat, it would just be like a Twitch stream, like kappa 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 kappa, just like rolling at the bottom of this conversation.
No, I'm so mad at Twitch. Let's not go there.
If you want to go down the rabbit hole, if you go to Arrowid, it's EROWID. It's basically this huge online community for people documenting their experiences with chemicals and combination of those chemicals. It is very interesting to read.
Wow.
So if you want to hear somebody like crushing up morning glory seeds, putting them into absinthe, and then injecting between their toes, there's probably somebody that's done that out there and documented their experience.
All right.
Yeah. You can get needle tracks anywhere.
Do we have any third topics today?
We do. We have one more topic.
Oh my god!
This is fresh off the Twitter press because man, that's all the feed is right now. If you're a Magic player and you're on Twitter, so at the Pro Tour, at the Pro Tour, there was a player who qualified from Grand Prix through Modern, specifically playing the very powerful Sam Black, Cohen, Amulet Bloom deck. And so this guy was just like kind of lucky with it. It seemed like he had a lot of first turn kills at the Grand Prix, and he, had it at the Pro Tour. And it turned out part of his strategy for winning was to palm the perfect opening hand. Just literally would have like the 7 cards that he wanted, like set aside somewhere somehow, concealed from an opponent. And as soon as the opponent would look away or like look to draw their own hand, it was very natural for him to just kind of, I guess, pull it back out wherever he had put it. So
Did you have to keister it?
I believe the way to do it is you get your deck back from being cut, and you like find a way to get your hand on top of your deck, and then you lay it out like it looks like your hand.
Yeah. Yeah, you've somehow concealed the cards and then like gotten them back to where they are effectively the hand that you want.
Yeah, just imagine you had like the cards in your hand and you went to go grab your deck after your opponent has cut it, and you just literally drop your cards on top and then move your deck. And it'd be very difficult to notice this. Like you would have to basically somehow see his hand being shaped. Like it's very difficult to like blame this on his opponent. It's just one of those things where.
Why is this a story? I mean, was it discovered posthumously on video? Like why is this a story now?
I mean, I guess there was a judge call or another player noticed or an opponent, but at some point somebody observed this happening.
Yeah.
And he got, he basically got caught doing this. So kind of like the running soundbite for it that I've seen from like numerous people is cartoon villainy. Just basically like, this is like a comic book villain doing some very comic book villain thing and cheating Magic, like just literally like keeping the hand that I want and then just like palming it and putting it on top. Like it's like very egregious, aggressive cheating.
People were saying that he was winning game ones more frequently than like are statistically possible. Like the deck wins in turn one like sub 5% of the time or whatever. Like it plays one Simian Spirit Guide in his deck, so that way he can win on turn one. He literally just had one Simian Spirit Guide in his deck, and he would just have that in his opening hand so he could win on turn one, and then no other Simian Spirit Guides in the deck.
So he's just a bad cheater. That's kind of what
I mean. No, he was a good cheater until he got caught. I mean, he played through an entire Grand Prix. Like, he got caught at the Pro Tour, which happened after the Grand Prix. Or was it the opposite way around?
No,
he cheated at a Grand Prix, and then they caught him at the Pro Tour trying to do the same thing.
So he got, like he was getting away with this for a while. I mean, basically, like... It took a combination of like people being suspect of him and then actually having a judge do something about it for him to get caught. So,
well, it has to be observed, right? Like just because you suspect somebody's doing something, like that's part of the whole context of cheating. Is like you can have a feeling, you can make observations like this is just statistically unlikely, but it's also like statistically unlikely to like do well enough to like win a Pro Tour as well. Like that does require some luck. Like the difference between like a top 16 and a top 8 is like typically like the last match of the Pro Tour. So that's a pretty big deal. Just like, whoops, that's the round. I missed my lands at game 3. So the deal with Steven though is like there was an investigation. The Pro Tour was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And, came back. And so he got banned. Got banned for 3 years. And apparently that is grossly insufficient and just a complete egregious error on the part of anybody doing anything to handle cheaters. So that's the Twitter opinion right now.
So they felt the punishment was insufficient? That's why people are mad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's talk on Twitter right now of like possibly like people are throwing out these wild things where like they're saying that SCG should like sue him for prize money and that he should be forced to give back prize money and that this should be equated as theft. And they just I don't know.
I mean, basically it comes down to this. People caught somebody violating the Magic community. He violated the Magic community. Multiple people were affected by him. People are upset about this, understandably so. And in the grand scheme, this is effectively the worst thing you could do in Magic. So, like, let's say you're in society and you murder someone. That's what we generally consider the worst thing you could do.
Wow.
If you murdered someone,
we're two things.
But it is in the scheme in the spectrum. There's no murder in Magic, obviously. Well, I mean, not realistically.
Oh, you just wait.
So this is like the worst thing you could do. You're literally taking money out of people's hands and you are setting up your turn 1 combo deck to win on turn 1 illegally.
Are you killing their chances to succeed in Magic?
I mean, But basically, this is the worst thing. So, like, if you did the worst thing in normal society and you got 3 years suspension, which is way different than prison or anything like that, people would be outraged. You'd be like, no, that is not justice. We want justice. So I can understand people thinking that this is not severe enough. The problem is most of those people don't understand the motives behind this type of ban or suspension or whatever, the time period choice. Like, you know, for all we know, WotC plans on extending this at some point, but they wanted to like just come out with some immediate announcement about it, and then they'll handle it further down the line or whatever. Like, it's I can understand it being difficult to say, hey, you're banned from ever playing our game again. That's just kind of a tough thing to get to, even though there are plenty of players who argue that should be the penalty. Like, you cheat, you get caught cheating, you're banned for life. Like, there are plenty of Magic players who don't need you back around. And, you know, I can understand some of their points. I'm not that extreme, but I can understand some of them. And I think it is a viable debate to have. Twitter's a decent place to have this. I have not checked Twitter as much as you guys recently, but apparently it is more one-sided than not. Is anybody arguing that his banning is, you know, legit as is?
Not really.
No?
No, the majority of what I'm seeing is basically they want blood or
right.
money.
And that's the thing is, like, I feel like this is like, I mean, we just went through this. Like, I feel like we just had like somebody who was banned for like 3 years, and like, you know, we had the exact same discussion, and it always seems to be just the same. Like somehow it's like, okay, so if 3 years is insufficient, what is sufficient? Is 4? Is 5? Like what is the actual numerical value?
They don't want him to come back at all. They don't want him to come back at all.
So like, let's put this in perspective. Like I punch somebody, just sucker punch them, right? And I can get, you know, some months in prison and some parole and some anger management stuff.
You sound like you know this.
But if I cheat at a card game, I should never be allowed to play that card game again competitively, even if I've, you know, corrected my behaviors.
But the difference is, one of those things is literally your life. Your life is being put on hold to be put behind bars, and you can't do that indefinitely. The other one is a hobby, a game that there are plenty of alternatives to. In no way is Magic essential to your living or livelihood. And so people argue that for you to be banned from that,
say that, though. There are some people who do make their living from Magic.
Yeah, but sure. But imagine those people worked at an office and were caught molesting somebody. They would be fired from that job, and they should be, because it was appropriate punishment. They would go find a job somewhere else. They're like, them not working at that particular office makes sense because they screwed up. So like, you screw up in Magic. It doesn't matter what job, how much of your income it provides. Go to WoW TCG or something. And there are plenty of WoW cheaters, mind you, that play Magic nowadays. There are some notorious people that actually became pros in Magic after being caught cheating elsewhere.
Or they've been banned in Magic, so they go to Hearthstone.
Really? Sure. That's kind of interesting then. Okay.
But I'm literally making the argument for these people. I don't necessarily agree with all this, but their argument is that, you know, this is an elected thing that you can be fine without. So move on to something else. We don't want you around because you make the game worse as a whole. Like, your presence is a negative, is a blight on the community. So why would we opt into you being there?
I don't know. I guess I'm of the mindset, and it's like, I realize I'm going to be the minority in this, but I feel like I'm curious as to, I'm always fascinated by what makes people do something like this. You know, I don't believe that it's always as cut and dry as, you know, this person is evil, this person is bad, those extremes, that black and white, you know, we don't know. And I'm of the mindset that I think cheaters can change. You know, I think that that's something that if they know why they're doing this and they actively don't want to be doing it anymore, I believe you can fix it. I believe you can get help with that sort of thing. And I think to say that you can never come back, I think that sends a message that I don't really like. It says that you can't be fixed, or, you know, you can't do better. And I believe that if somebody wants to, they really can. And we've seen that with people. But there have been people that have been banned for lengths of time that have come back and done great things. And I think it is possible in certain situations.
But even if it's possible, as a gaming company and as a community, let's say that they have, let's make up some numbers. Let's say about 30% chance of remission or not remission, of being cured and no longer cheating, and they have a 70% chance of cheating again and costing someone else some prize money or whatever. Like, is it even worth taking that risk when they can instead move on to something else and show that they're not a cheater? That other thing, they can go play some other game and show they're not a cheater there. Like, why does Magic have to be the thing that they do? Why do we have to put up with a risk of this person ruining other people's, I'm going to say lives in quotes because it's not that extreme, but like, why should we even give them that opportunity? Even if, like, sure, some number of people we can admit will be good, but show us that you're good somewhere else. Go, you know, pick up trash and play Monopoly to the best of your ability in a non-cheating manner. And maybe, you know, when 7 years down the line, we reevaluate and you get back in. Like, I personally don't think there should be any, like, 100% this is never should be swayed thing, like basically in life. Like, that's kind of like ridiculous. Like, I think you have to leave the door open. Like, look at the reserve list and how shitty that's gotten into right recently. Like, if they could just like change one little thing, they'd probably have a, you know, perfect system. But you know, I can understand where these people are coming from, because in their eyes, they're playing Magic in the immediate future. This person being around at any point is something that they have to worry about. What if they play this person? What if another tournament gets won by this person? Look at, you know, Alex, who was suspended, and everyone's like, oh, you know, he made some mistakes, he shouldn't be suspended, and then he came back and cheated again and got suspended again, and people are like, yep, that's what's going to happen because he's a cheater. I mean,
and see, that I don't feel bad about. I think that's a situation where he was clearly, you know, he had an opportunity to reform and to show that he had really made some sort of progress, and he fucked that up. So I don't feel bad about that at all. Like, you can throw him, you know, in there and lock away the key, and you can lock him away and throw away the key. That I don't condone at all. But I don't know. I don't know.
Does there exist?
But you bring up a fair point, though.
Does there exist like a probation period for people like following like a banning? I mean, is that any way to potentially be a happy medium for this?
I mean, it's typically like a social thing, right? So, like, somebody who has like a prominent banning and is recognizable, when they come back, typically, like, everyone just like watches everything they do. Like, if they breathe the wrong way, like, people are like, well, he must be doing something shady now. You know, it's like, it's a very, very conscious social thing. Like, there's a ton of social pressure on anyone who has had a major suspension from the game.
Like a scarlet letter, like,
yeah.
Like that.
And many of these people again. Like Marcel Carvalho got caught again. Like, he came back and got caught cheating again, and he was one of the most famous cheaters ever. And people are like, "Oh, you know, his 3-year ban is up. Whatever, he'll come back." And he worked his ass off to get back to the Pro Tour. And guess what? He was actually cheating to get back to the Pro Tour, and they got caught at the Pro Tour. Like,
and see, that's unacceptable. I don't.
Yeah, but I mean, this stuff happens, and that's why people find it unacceptable, because it's like, once the rule is in place where these people can't come back, there's nothing stopping. Like, Marcio was allowed to come back. He's allowed to play on the Pro Tour. His time was up. There was nothing the community could do about that at that point. And he got back on, and he cost some people some matches. Sure, he got caught eventually, but, you know, those people that lost to him because he cheated in the earlier rounds, they never got their chance to make that top 8 of their one Pro Tour that they won a PTQ to get to. Like, that's a big deal. You win one PTQ, you go to a Pro Tour, you maybe X and 2 going in third to last round, and Marcio Carvalho cheats you. Like, it doesn't matter if he gets caught later on. Like, your Pro Tour has been ruined by this person, and like that as an experience that, I don't know.
But your Pro Tour could also be ruined by mana screw. It could be ruined by a combat.
Yeah, but we can't stop mana screw from. I mean, we can, but we don't want to stop mana screw from happening in the future. We do want to stop cheaters from happening, and we potentially, this is at least a step to lower the number of cheaters in the game. So, like, if you lower the cheater population by, and the thing is, like, how many people actually cheat? Like, we don't know, but if people are getting caught at a more frequent pace because of improved knowledge of the player base, because of cameras, because of judges actually coming up with ways and methods and tricks and whatnot to catch them, if cheaters are actually being found and we're removing a significant portion of cheaters from the field, why would we just let them swim back out at some point and, like, repopulate and, like, teach cheating to other people? And, like, you know, it's not like a lot of these people do act in isolation, I'm sure, but I'm sure other people have, like, rings, and they have teachers, or they have students that, like, they're teaching them their ways to, or maybe they're just a friend or a son or whatever. Like, the fact, if you cheat, you probably think it's okay to cheat. Like, that's kind of, it's messed up, but it's the way it is. And I don't know, getting that type of mentality out of the game does not seem like the worst thing to me. Even if it does seem a bit extreme, but I don't know. I personally would never want an in-depth or a permanent ban. I think that you should, like, leave the door open, maybe to make an appeal at some point down in time. It's like you're banned indefinitely until you feel you're reformed. You make an appeal, you write an apology to the community, we evaluate you, and then we get you back in. Maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe it's like, who's to say, like, even if he does reform at some point, who's to say 3 years is the amount of time he needs? Like, Watching's just picking a random number, right? Like, that means nothing. Like, maybe put it on the player. Like, be like, look, you've effed up, and if you would like to be realistic about this, and at some point in the future approach us and say you're welcome back in our game, we'll hear you out then. But for now, take your time out. And then not only that, but how long that person takes their time out says a lot about what the person does. Like the community gets to judge that. Jared Betcher immediately saying, I didn't cheat. Everyone's like, okay, you're an idiot. Like, we caught you on camera and you're claiming you didn't cheat. We don't want you back. Like, that means something. Like,
or when Trevor Humphreys, oh my God, his meltdown was glorious.
Yeah, his meltdown on Facebook is like
keyboard dojo warriors or something.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
It's big when I caught one of that one.
Yeah.
I think that's one we talked about. So like, it's like I don't think 3 years is necessarily a random number. I feel like 3 years, if you're a competitive player and like tomorrow, Conley, they're just like, okay, well, because you work for, the company that you work for, you're no longer eligible. And you're like, well, I'd rather have my job than play competitive Magic. Like, I guess that's just my new life. And you stay at your job for 3 years and then you leave. 3 years is a very long time to be away from the competitive game. Even if you're playing, drafts every now and then, or even if you're keeping up with reading and stuff like that.
Even
not
6
actively
months
playing
is a
in
long
high
time.
level events. 6 months is a long time. 3 years is a very long time for in the grand scheme of things in terms of life. So, like, I don't think it's necessarily random. It's a very long time to say, go away from competitive Magic. We'll talk to you again in 3 years. It's pretty much just like what the message says. So, like, I feel like, ultimately it's like an opportunity to let people grow. So, like, you talk, like going way back to the beginning of the cast, talking about being nicer. I guess not the beginning, it's like the middle at this point. But, like, you're saying, just in 3 years, how much you've changed as a person, right? So, I mean, I think that's the theory, right? Is ultimately, like, cheating is typically a selfish behavior. It's the perspective like, I deserve this, or I earned this, or, this is like getting back for the mana screw that I had earlier. This is just balancing that out. Whatever internalization that somebody comes up with, right? It's a very selfish motivation. It's like, this is for me and I want this. In theory, if you have to step away from something, I think that's the perspective is like, look, step away, and in 3 years, have you matured? That's the question that ban effectively asks. Does 4 years make a difference, or 5 years, or does a lifetime, then you have to go through some sort of convoluted appeal process? Like, I don't know if that's necessarily better than just saying, look, you have to be away for a fairly significant amount of time. At the end of that, if you're willing to, again, it's an opt-in, right? Like, you don't have to be playing Magic at that point. If you still want to play competitive, that's when you can do it again.
That's fair, but I would also like them to potentially revise some of the rules in that case. Like, you come back after 3 years, you're currently not supposed to use somebody's history against them when making a judge ruling. Like, you're not, basically their past is their past. Like, that kind of thing, like, if you're a known cheater, you were just suspended for 3 years and you come back and some shady stuff happens and you're not allowed to use the information you have of this person who's cheated before, like, that's pretty ridiculous. Like, let's use some common sense here.
But you also can't in a court of law a lot of times. Isn't that, oh God, there's a phrase for it, but you can't hold somebody's previous things against them in a current case.
While that is true, like, to a legal T, when you hear on the news and they go, this person was pulled over and shot by police, they had no prior record or whatever, they say that for a reason. They give you the information of this person's a good person, they haven't done anything bad. Or they say this person was in a car accident, they had 3 felonies and 2 whatever. Like, they're giving you that information because they know that it is relevant to a certain degree. And the community is the thing here. Like, basically, if the community hates this person or loves this person, that is ultimately what, just like, you can't show up to Magic events where the community just hates you. You're just going to have a bad time, I assume. Like,
see, I don't like that. I don't like that. That's the deciding factor. That somebody doesn't like me. Oof.
Well, it's not about. I mean, you put yourself in a position to not be liked, and I'm not. You can obviously attend to the tournament, I'm sure. But what I'm saying is, like, I couldn't imagine me being a cheater and being a known cheater and a hated cheater, let's say Jared Betcher level, and showing up to a tournament. That feels like it would be a miserable experience for me. Like, I either would be like, people would be talking about me constantly. I would have no friends there. Like, I just can't imagine wanting to attend tournaments as a Jared Betcher.
And see,
right,
I would think
the thing there, Conley, is like part of why criminal investigation, or more specifically, just sticking to like what we're more familiar with, a judge call investigating this, is that if you are somebody that comes back and somebody has a bias against you, whether it's justified via some context from history, or just that person insulted you once and you just don't like them, like, the idea that somebody can actively call a judge and cause harm for you is like anathema to the whole point of having judge calls available for players.
I'm not saying you
like somebody under that type of observation and pressure, like, again, like they do something that looks weird, like, somebody is going to call a judge just because, like, everyone else already has all of this pressure. Like, if you're the judge, like, your job is to ignore that there's this other social thing going on and investigate, like, is there actually something here?
It's not a social thing. It's a fact that this person used this cheat before that involves these same methods. Like, I'm not saying you should be able to call a judge on somebody because of past history, and I'm not saying that judge necessarily should just invite all past history, but if it's relevant, if it deals with the situation, like if it is a, let's say it's a communication issue. This is a great one. Basically, for communication errors where a player is BSing and like using translation to gain an edge, they're saying my opponent said this and blah blah blah. That person gets banned for cheating. The only thing you have to really know those are he said she said moments. The only thing you can use in the future is past history. And if this person has done this crime multiple times where they have basically lied to judges or lied about the language that their opponents use, the fact that they've done this in the past and it's happening right now should be relevant.
And so Conley, it is in the sense that when a player is under investigation, so part of the job of the scorekeeper at any event is to log, who wins what matches and to run the tournament, right? That's just the basic logistics of scorekeeping. But they also have an additional job, and that's typically, especially at competitive REL events and professional, is that anytime there's a judge call or something happens, information gets written on the match slip, and that information goes back to the scorekeeper and eventually gets added to the information about those players. So if you miss a trigger, right, like a mandatory trigger, and you miss it, even if it doesn't affect the game and clearly it was an accident, that gets logged, right? So that's how Tomohiro Saito got into trouble. It was just a long history from all of these different observations over time of a particular type of behavior, where when it was investigated by the by the committee that investigates these things, they use that prior history to make an informed judgment about how they should handle that player. And Saito got banned, we all know that story. So that's where it comes into effect. The point of the history isn't about that it's not available or useful. It's just that in a particular game, for any particular given situation, it's supposed to be evaluated independently and looked at as that event, right? Because when it comes to an investigation or when it comes to that type of looking back on the history, that's for a step higher. Just because somebody makes a mistake and it happened to be something that's somebody else uses that method for cheating, doesn't mean they're a cheater, just makes them a bad player or somebody who made a mistake, right? So it's obviously a little more nuanced and complex than that, but that's the whole that's part of why it is the way that is. It's not fair to say well, somebody was stacking their deck, so everybody who mass shuffles is clearly stacking the top card of the deck. That's not true. It's just mass shuffling is just actually a terrible way to shuffle.
100% true. Cheating scumbags out there. Also, if you mana weave, stop it. I don't care how much you shuffle, just stop it. Also, Tom, you're the judge on this one. Which way does it go? How's it go from now on? Cheaters banned forever or not forever?
I'd say not forever. I like the idea of at least him having a second chance. Or some sort of appeal process. That actually seemed like not putting a year amount on it, but 6 months from now, if I have some sort of huge epiphany, go live with a Buddhist monk, whatever it is that I did to rediscover my new life. What's that? I'm just thinking something really peaceful that'd make me a nicer person.
Yeah, book me a room, because I need that.
Yeah, but it seems like an appeal that would be a fascinating appeal process. Do you write an essay? What would you be like?
I have no idea. I didn't think I literally came up with the idea on air, Tom. I did not.
No, that's why I think it'd be really interesting. It's
yeah, I agree.
Watson could be we don't have a process. You prove to us, and that could be you could sing them a song, write a poem. Great back massages. I don't know what it is, but
Watsy's process.
Puppets.
3 years in the back.
Yeah, you could solve some 2-minute mysteries, and whatever.
Go ahead, Tom. Read your 2-minute mystery. Go.
You want a 2-minute mystery? This is the one that I personally liked.
Now wait a minute. Is it going to take you 2 minutes to read it?
It's basically this page and then it's a page and a half.
Yeah, ain't nobody got time for that.
What?
All right. So we've beaten this topic to death. The horse is no longer a horse. It's now fertilized the earth.
It's blue.
I'm gonna break a mental sweat while you babble.
Yeah. So Tom, read our 2-minute mystery. We'll think about it a little bit, and then we'll close the show. How about that?
Oh, I do get to read it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
sure.
Okay.
This is the case of the big deal, and mind you, if there's anything somewhat potentially misogynistic or quasi-racist in this, because it was written in the 60s. So just hold out. Thank you. These are not my words. Dr. Heldejan, I don't know how you pronounce. This is the main character.
That mystery take such a dark turn so quickly? Like, oh, this is the guy that wrote Tom Hardy. Oh, by the way, it may be like Song of the South.
I'm just saying, not this one that I picked, but I have read some that are a little colorful. That was probably a bad word to use for that. We'll just say they were interesting.
If the word colored comes out of your mouth, I'm hanging up so fast.
Not in this one.
Oh,
I promise. Dr. H had just ordered a drink at the bar in Las Vegas, so I picked it because of Las Vegas. In the Las Vegas motel, when a lean young stranger with a sun-bleached golden hair and tan cheeks took the stool beside him. After asking for a gin and tonic, the sunburned young man nodded toward the gaming tables. "Name's Clive Vance," he said genially. "It's sure great to be back in civilization and hear money talking out loud." The famous sleuth introduced himself. "I take it you've been out on the desert?" "Got back yesterday," said Vance. "Washed the dust out of my ears, had a real live barber shave off 7 months of whiskers, and tripped this mop of wheat," I'm assuming hair. "Then I brought a whole wardrobe on credit. All I had to show was my assay report." Whatever the hell that is. "Boy, am I ever ready to celebrate." "You found gold?" "Right you are. Hit pay dirt." Vance stroked his bronzed chin thoughtfully. He lowered his voice confidentially. "Listen," he said.
I already know the answer.
Yep, she's got it. "If I can find a backer, I'll take enough out of these hills to buy 10 pleasure palaces like this one." "Of course," he said apologetically. "I'm not trying to interest you, Doctor. Still, if you know of somebody who'd like to get in on a sure thing, let me know. I'm staying in room 210. Can't give out details here, you understand?" "Oh, I understand," said Dr. H. "That you better improve your story if you want to part some sucker from his money." What was wrong with Vance's story?
If he would have had 7 months of stubble, he wouldn't have a bronze chin.
Bam! Mystery.
I was in the Gifted and Talented growing up. I read Mind Trap for fun.
Oh, God. Mind Trap. Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Tag! Invent your own spaceship. Make sure it has bathrooms. So there we go. 2-minute mystery. These are great. This is the ultimate bathroom reader. Because you can crack out at least... Depends on kind of your...
Yeah, we get it. We understand.
Can I give you a Mind Trap question?
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. How many species of animal did Moses take on the ark?
I don't know if I can't tell what level we're answering the question at.
I will say I wasn't brought up in a religious family.
Yeah, and the answer is 0 with that.
Yeah, I guess I don't... Was Moses on the ark? The ark was related to Moses, correct? I honestly don't know.
Stibs. Oh my God! Why am I on this?
Noah and the ark, and it's Moses.
Is there anyone that don't have a religious...
Okay, well the answer
would
would
be 0. And the ark.
The answer would be 0 because it was Noah on the ark, not Moses.
Okay, okay. I got there through my ignorance, but I got there.
Jeez.
So what did
if a plane crashed on the border between Canada and America, where would you bury the survivors?
Nowhere, because they're still alive.
Okay, good. See?
Yeah, as you have little kids too, you get to do the little stumpers and like Bazooka Joe ones.
This has been the most mild.
I do mind puzzles. I want to put little tiny plastic bricks together. Sorry, a sophisticated building system.
I was amazed that you do that because doesn't your younger one just immediately try to eat those things? It's like they're just perfectly sized to get lodged in something.
Yeah, they're choking hazards, and all children love choking hazards because they're deliciously mouth-sized.
I'm leaving that one.
But we have we have containment units for the youngest one. He rarely gets the room free in the house. That's all. So I'm a dad. Whoa. Anyway, so thank you, Erin, for joining us this week. It was
Thank
awesome.
you for having me. This was so much fun. I feel like we're back in Minneapolis when we were all hanging out in 5th GP.
Yeah, is there another Minneapolis tournament coming up soon?
I don't think so.
Oh.
There is a Grand Prix Madison, which is like in the same geographic region as Minneapolis, but it's definitely not like next door.
Yes, but not in like my geographical area.
How long does it take to get to Madison, Tom?
What, maybe 3 hours from?
You could do that. Come on.
I guess it's getting more possible now that we have like DVD players and stuff, but doing anything over about 45 minutes in the car with toddlers, it has to be a pretty strong motivation. Like, there has to be a happy ending at the end of that one.
I think I know.
So this cast is officially gone off the rails.
What? This was the most tame. This is the most tame going off the rails ever. We talked about secret mysteries of the Sleuth Lord and whatever Tom's talking about.
Yeah, Donald J. Sowell. Yeah, I didn't
choking hazards.
Yeah, one so gross medical story.
So, Erin, people who may have met you for the first time here, where can they catch up with you later? Where can they get more of your awesome voice and kind of commentary?
Oh, man. Well, I'm on Twitter at Original Astrus. That's ORIGINALOESTRUS. My show is The Girlfriend Bracket on Twitter at the GF Bracket. We are on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. Gathering Magic, you can find our show every Monday. And you can email me at estrus@elitistjerks.com.
Is that like your own like URL, or is there like a Elitist Jerks website?
Elitist Jerks was a website. It was a forum for World of Warcraft theory crafting and things like that. And they were recently purchased by 10 Ton Hammer, so it's pretty much dead now. But for a while, it was like the place to be for theory crafting and strategies and things like that. And then there was a guild, which I believe is still running, called Elitist Jerks. And when you donated to the website, you received an email address. So elitistjerks.com is a real site.
Oh man, it's been like 4 years since I played World of Warcraft. I met a few people. Is top 10 Ton Hammer still around?
I don't know. Okay. I stopped. I resubbed for a little bit and then I quit again. Were you Alliance or Horde?
I was Alliance because me and a friend would just. I honestly didn't actually play in combat in that game. I was a tailor, and we'd go into wherever the major Alliance city was, and we would perform same-sex marriages because I could make wedding dresses. And people, it was interesting. People got
Thomas
so irate.
Eugene Gustafson, Alliance?
Yeah, I want to be I don't want to be like a
Stibs. Why are you friends with Alliance players?
Like
Alliance?
I didn't know. This is the first time I've heard Tom bring it up. So this is the last episode of MTG Potpourri. I'm not going to stand for Alliance scum. I'm not casting with them. Anyway, Conley, if people like you and love to get your perspective on Magic, where can they find you?
Well, like you now, because now you're a nice person.
Yeah.
Jackass before.
I've never played WoW, so I can't contribute to that conversation.
It was kind of
you can find me on Twitter at Conley81. You can find me on TCG Player. My article's there. Deck Doctor Series on channelfireball.com. And you can find me at GP Vegas.
Yay!
Woo! You can find me at GP Vegas as well. I'm Adam Styborski. I'm content manager for Gathering Magic. I have lots of thoughts. None of them are representative of Gathering Magic, by the way, or my employers.
None of them are represented on this show either. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I didn't really have anything. I think I actually said the most controversial thing that like people are gonna like hear about a week later, and then they light me up on Twitter like, "Wait, you don't think we should crucify this guy and dip him in tar? Like you're the worst person ever." You know, I'm gonna wait for those tweets to roll in, but. I'm also on dailymtg.com. That's the official matchgathering.com website. I write the Thursday column Command Tower. It's all about Commander. It's my favorite format. I'll be at many of the Grand Prix in North America, particularly on the eastern seaboard coastal range, whatever that means.
And he likes walks on the beach and tummy rubs.
And a little bit of brown sugar.
Actually, yes, I do. It's nice. I'll also be at Gen Con this year. Gen Con is coming up. It's the same weekend as Pro Tour Vancouver. So if you try to qualify for Pro Tour Vancouver, you don't get to make it there. This is Pro Tour Magic Origins. Go to Gen Con instead. Way too much fun. Totally awesome. Highly recommended. I'm going to be there.
Are we having another party this year?
Gen Con stands for General Conley's House.
Are we having another party this year?
You mean a party at Gen Con?
Yeah.
Sure.
Or a party at Conley's house.
Sure.
I was a featured guest last year.
I mean,
last
you're
year
dancing.
was so much fun.
It's fun. Yeah.
Where you're tutting. Your tutting that you do.
Are you voguing?
No, he tuts.
It's tutting.
I still don't.
That's voguing, girl.
No, it's tutting.
Whatever it is, it's what Conley has learned in his dance classes.
I don't take dance classes.
Conley has learned them.
Mm-hmm.
You went on like a 10-minute tirade about how like you like when you do anything you want to you have like
you want to have a horde of people around you,
and like you went and you were like learning or taking classes or something. There was some sort of informational process where you were practicing dancing, and you were talking about how much better you've gotten and that you have moves that would impress us.
Yeah, I didn't know Bukaki was dancing.
Yes, that's true, but I haven't taken dance classes. I've just been dancing more and learning more stuff and losing more weight and able to do more with my body.
I totally want to do a parody called Moves Like Conley. That'd be awesome. I've got the moves like Conley. It'd be awesome.
I'm just saying, come dance with me in Vegas.
I want to.
If I dance with you, can I have like a rose and then you dip me and I have a rose?
No. When I say dance with me, I don't mean like specifically. Like my dancing is like freestyle, like individual stuff. I don't mean like literally duet with me. I mean like come dance at a club with me.
You don't co-op? Can I co-op Tut? We could imagine the cool shapes you could make with 2 people.
The thing is, like, I haven't learned any.
You make half the triangle.
No, it's. I mean, you have to be on the same page, and it'd be very difficult. I don't think you could do that.
Well,
you know what you can co-op, Tom? You can co-op the sign-off.
You could just cartwheel. You can cartwheel me, whatever you want to do.
For anyone who's still hanging on, waiting to find out who you are.
I haven't eaten dinner yet. I'm literally starving to death talking to you right now, Tom. Shut your face and end the cast.
I'm a big, angry baby.
I'm a nice person.
And people like me.
Yeah. I am found literally nowhere, so I haven't found on this. Twitter is at PSG Reader, but I do love to get emails. And we did get one email, so if you want to email us, it's gathering... Oh, God, I always get this wrong. MTG Potpourri at gatheringmagic.com. It's roughly 3,000 letters long.
That's our filtering system. If you can't figure out how to email us, we probably don't want to read your email. That's where we're at. So if you can type out MTG Potpourri at gatheringmagic.com, just type it out in your browser or your email window.
So I did want to.
Tom reads all the emails. He really does.
I love getting, that was like my favorite thing from Monday Night Magic Game, just bizarre emails from very, very random countries. I still remember getting
all of our listener questions, most of our listener questions from the girlfriend bracket have been from other countries. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, Trinidad and Tobago is still my personal favorite Magic email.
Wow. Trinidadian.
Yeah, where do you get the cards?
Japanese and Indian.
Right? We had that South African guy who would like write us regularly, like once a month.
Oh, yeah. And then he accused me of, God, what happened? There was something weird. We were doing that card drive for...
He got a bunch of cards, I thought.
Yeah, and we were doing that card drive, and we can't remember what we donated them to. It was something like for troops? Something like that. And he accused He accused me of keeping them all. And it's like, how do you prove that I didn't keep them all? Like, show him this empty spot on my floor. It's like, that's where the cards were.
I've been over to your house and we built decks for those cards, but outside of that, I cannot say whether or not you kept them.
Yeah, I don't even care anymore.
You do. No, I keep this.
Yeah. As long as my kids still have all their fingers on their hands at the end of the day, that's the win. So we did get an email from Kai T. So, okay. So this says Tom is an a-hole.
Because you were supposed to sign off, and instead you're reading an email, Tom. This is like next level derailment.
This is what happens when you give me the stick. Is it just like in Fast and Furious 7, like The Rock, he flexes that arm, rips off the cast, like, Daddy's got to go to work.
Why are you spoilers? Jesus.
If you haven't seen it by now,
come on.
Please.
I was looking forward to that moment.
Tom is an a-hole. It's 1 a.m. I'm lying in bed. I can't sleep because I keep thinking about tiny snakes squirming up my penis. Thanks, Tom, with a bunch of frowny faces.
Oh,
that is the snake story. And if you missed the snake story, it's at the end of our last episode. So go back and watch the end of the last one on YouTube or listen to the last
I think I'm good.
Episode.
I think I'm set.
Oh, you didn't hear all the crazy weird ER stories of people putting stuff in wherever it kind of fits?
I actually don't listen to a lot of podcasts, so...
Yeah, well, this was the short story is I admitted a guy who, for fun, would put baby gardener snakes up his penis. But the problem is they don't come back out.
Surprised when he can no longer pee after shoving many of them up there, and did not tell doctors that was.
Yeah, the trying to summarize the story. The path report coming back.
I can contribute way more to this conversation, but I'm not going to. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I was only treating something really bad happened or the bowling pin doesn't come back out sort of situations.
Can I go take my pants off now?
I was figuring you say put him back on.
So
yeah.
Welcome aboard.
I imagine we're in that banana hammock where it stretches all the way down and then just. Have you guys seen the fake swimsuit that was just like looked like a Crown Royal bag that you just put over your penis and testicles and it was supposed to be a swimsuit? Google it.
Okay.
It's quite good.
No, we're not Googling that. There's literally not a chance at all.
Thank you again.
And everyone that isn't aware, anything Tom brings up, just do not Google it. That is the do not Google rule.
But it is available for purchase from CoolStuffInc.com. the official sponsor of this podcast.
You were the worst, Tom. Now you're just straight scumming.
All right, so thank you, Conley. This is on my screen. Thank you, Conley. Thank you, Adam. And thank you, Erin. This is why co-hosts probably don't come back. But thank you. This was a very lovely, special week of MTG Potpourri. Adam will never again get to host. Sorry.
Bye.
See, I'll stop the recording here.